is one hood strut on the Toyota Tacoma enough to hold the hood up? Well, good afternoon everybody, and welcome back to the channel. That's right, is one hood strut enough, sufficient to hold the Toyota Tacoma hood up? You know, recently, actually a few weeks ago, I installed a S&B cold air intake in my Tacoma back here. And in doing that install, I discovered that I couldn't have the passenger side Redline Tuning hood strut on the truck because it was in the way. The S&B cold air intake air box was just too wide. I couldn't fit it in there with the bracket and then the hood strut plugged into that same bracket and still be able to fit that unit in there. So I removed it. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. We'll pop the hood open here. And of course, the hood's not going to go flying open because it does, of course, have still the safety latch here on the front. You know, that little thing that keeps the hood from flying up should it ever disengage while you're, I don't know, say doing 90 miles an hour down the freeway. So, I want to show you real quick here how it works with just the one hood strut on it. You do have to go ahead and release the latch. Now you'll notice it doesn't go flying up. It used to be when it had two struts, they were powerful in tandem enough that I could raise it about here or at least give the hood a good push and the hood would continue and go all the way up. It doesn't do that anymore with just the one strut, but I want you to notice it can be done with one hand really easily. It doesn't raise by itself anymore, it will just stop, but it does stop. And it doesn't come flying back down because the hood is too heavy. Now, when you get it to about right here, you'll notice it does go back down. Somewhere right about in that area right there. So once you're up about halfway or so, the strut takes over with its full holding power and doesn't let the hood go back down. Now, let's go ahead and raise it the rest of the way up. And I have to be careful because I have it under the lift and I don't want the hood to hit. But still, that's a good illustration because I don't have it extended just as far as it'll go. It has just a little bit more, but the strut is holding it perfectly fine. Now, if you're not familiar with hood struts, what I'm talking about, of course, is this Redline Tuning hood strut right here. Before, as I mentioned, I had one on that side, and then I had one over here. And you may notice the bracket for it, if you can see it on camera anyway, is still here. I didn't take that off, and I didn't do that in case, you know, I ever change out the cold air intake again with something maybe a little more narrow, and I can go ahead and put that other bracket down there, which I did remove, to go ahead and reconnect or connect up the second hood strut. Now, down here on the cold air intake, the other bracket was about right in this area. And this S&B cold air intake fits right up against the side of the interior of the engine bay here. And there is no wiggle room. You can't cut into this thing or you'd be cutting into the airbox itself. A few people suggested that. So it had to be removed. Now, you notice the whole time we've been talking here, the hood has been up. It hasn't lowered. It hasn't fallen down. It didn't chop my arm off while I had my arm inside there. A lot of people, not a lot, a few people have left comments concerned about safety of doing it this way. Now, first of all, I'll tell you, you should never do any mod that you're not comfortable or feel safe with. So if this is something that you don't feel safe with, then by no means should you do it. I, however, am confident in doing it this way and have no concerns about it coming down on me when I'm underneath doing stuff. Now, the other thing you could do, if you want a little extra security, I guess, you do still have the rod to hold the hood up. You could go ahead and raise it with the hood strut, and you could go ahead and put the rod in, just as a little extra security, I guess, if you're worried about that hood coming down. Personally, I never do that. I never have. My whole goal in doing this was to get rid of this rod to begin with, so I'm not interested in doing that at all. Again, you'll notice it hasn't started to lower. Everything is copacetic. Now, as far as lowering it, it still gives you a little bit of control because this is a pretty heavy hood. I mean, honestly, it gives you a little bit of help when you bring it down, right? I mean, you can just grab it with one hand and lower it. No big deal. It takes like no effort. It's only at about this point that it really starts to drop by itself. And once you get it here, you're almost closed anyway. Raising it again, pretty darn seamless, and you can stop anywhere you want. And that might be a benefit actually of having it this way versus having both struts. Before, when I would go to open it, the struts working in tandem were so strong they would take it all the way up if I just gave it a little nudge. It would have pulled the hood all the way back up and want to continue putting it up even when I had it sitting stationary like this. It would go ahead and pull the hood all the rest of the way up. You know, if you're doing anything under there, you want to gain access to the hood, especially if your truck is lifted and it's higher already, you can put it at about the height you want it. Pretty close. I mean, you can't do it down here obviously or it'll drop, but about up in here you could. And it would be fine. As far as shutting it, again, not complicated. You just pull it down and push it shut like you would any other time. So, my own personal happiness with it, I love it this way. I don't think two struts are necessary. Keep in mind, the Redline Tuning kit does come with two struts. I don't know if you can get just one, but you have a spare. So if you're concerned that that one eventually is going to lose its holding power and would need to be replaced, you'll have a spare from the purchase of the original kit, if you want to do that, that you could go ahead and replace it with. Personally, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I'll be surprised if I ever need to replace that. I suppose it depends on how often you're opening your hood. I mean, if you're a hyper hood lifter, you know, out there raising and lowering the hood all the time, yeah, you could wear it out, but you could wear both of them out doing that. So there's always, at some point where, depending on your own behavior, you might need to have replaced both of them anyway. Who knows? Anyway, I just wanted to get on here, kind of talk about that a little bit. Few people have questioned the safety of this. I don't have any qualms about it. I'm perfectly fine with it. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you'd be secure or comfortable having this kind of a setup with just the one Redline Tuning strut, or if there's no way you'd do that and you'd have to have two. I'll tell you one more thing. The benefit of that, I only had to drill 2 holes as opposed to 4 to put this thing on. Reduces your risk of rust a little bit. So let me know. Let me know if you'd be comfortable with that kind of a setup. I'd be curious. Also, real quick, check out my other channel if you haven't before. It is RobMotive JT, all about my 2020 Jeep Gladiator. Don't forget to click that notification bell on your way out so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. And do me a favor, smash that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.